Yo guys, this is Draenor, this is your favorite Russian talking, and today we're gonna be making a video about Affliction Warlocks, synergy between the talents and the Glyphs. And the first tier is gonna be for us the survivability tier, and there's two ways you can be running. You can be running with a Dark Regeneration or a Harvest of Life. Forget about Soul Lich, it's actually pretty garbagey. So let's talk a little bit about the Dark Regeneration talent. I think it's actually going to be very strong against the melee teams and melee cleaves in general, or even the melee duels and 2v2s when you're fighting pesky high interruptible melee classes like rogues or even the warriors. So what's the cool thing about this is, first of all, you're running with a Dark Regeneration, Siphon Life and Glyph of Hellstone, and believe it or not, but Siphon Life got buffed a lot. And it got buffed for two main reasons. First is there's no battle fatigue, and I think they are thinking of adding 20%, but 20% is not 50 or 60%, what is it on life. And the second thing is the damage got a lot slower. That means the sustained healing will actually gonna be extremely important in Warlords of Draenor. So that's where the Siphon Life actually comes in handy. Keep in mind also it synergizes really well with your haste, because the faster you dot stick, the more actually proc heals you're gonna get as well. So by actually popping my Dark Soul and putting 4 corruption at the same time, I get to 4k healing per second, and this is roughly about 1.3% of my HP every 2 seconds because of the haste. Every 2 seconds I heal myself for 1.2%, and that is huge. Imagine the amount of dots you can actually spread in our rated battlegrounds or even 5v5. And the second one, obviously the solid choice is still gonna be picked a lot, and that will be, give me a second, let me get out of the combat. It's gonna be Dark Regeneration Hellstone, and Hellstone actually heals you for 100k HP over 10 seconds, and Dark Regeneration heals you for 60k itself, plus 25% on top of it. Essentially, with the Hellstone and Dark Regeneration, you will heal at least for about 50 to 60% of your HP. More of like actually 60 to 65% of your HP. So that's a very strong pick. It also synergizes really well with Eternal Resolve and also your Souling, because the more passive damage mitigation you negate, the more healing you get. Even from the Souling, you also gonna get some healing as well. The more sustained damage you mitigate, the more sustained healing you actually dish out, the better and the stronger you become. So in that sense, what I also like running is possibly Souling, Siphon Life, and instead of maybe a Hellstone, because Hellstone did get nerfed a little bit. It no longer has a cooldown when you're in combat, it only goes off the cooldown when you get out of the combat. So essentially you might not even have a choices where you don't get out of the combat for Hellstone to start actually going off the cooldown. So with that said, Eternal Resolve, Siphon Life, Dark Regeneration would be also a solid pick to take. And this is where you actually, if you dot up all 3 targets, you're still gonna get some really decent healing from your Souling. It's nothing special, but it actually gets up to, I would say, about like a 400 to 800 healing per second, and that's without even any major cooldowns popped, only just a trinket proc, and it does have its own place. So your effective healing goes up as more damage you mitigate. So passively I have 20% here, then I have another 10% from a 2 PP trinket set bonuses, and another 10% from here, and that actually makes a really big difference. The second survivability that you guys can run is gonna be Drain Life spec, and I think that spec is gonna be extremely strong against the other casters, because casters don't have as many ways to interrupt spells. Even the Frost mages, oh god, they rage really hard, because you spamming Drain Life in their face and you're out healing a lot of their damage. Drain Life, keep in mind, it has a different kind of mechanic. The longer you cast, the more healing it does. So it's very important for you to actually get the full Drain Life cast in general by themselves. Obviously, with the Dark Soul, Drain Life healing also becomes extremely strong as well. And last but not least, Drain Life also works extremely well with another glyph. It's called an Unending Resolve. Where the hell is it? There it is. It basically reduces the cooldown of your Unending Resolve by 1 minute, but also reduces damage mitigated by down to 20% only. But it makes you immune to interrupt and silence effects, meaning that you can pop that. You can pop your Dark Soul Misery, and you can spam those Drain Lives at not being afraid to get interrupted at all. And you can do it every 2 minutes. So that glyph kind of synergizes pretty well as well. Second tier is gonna be the same thing: Shadow Fury, Mortal Coil, and Howl of Terror. Well, kind of second thing. They did some changes here, where there was a demonic breath before that nobody ever took because it's only Tinkerburgy 50% snare. But in that sense, we do get a Howl of Terror, and I think Howl of Terror is going to be much stronger against the casters, where against the melee, Shadow Fury is going to be stronger because you can easily stun the melee off of you and then fear them. And Mortal Coil is also going to be really good for gimps. Like if you're running a Shadow Glyph, you grip the healer into a stun, into a coil, that provides a very great synergy on its own. So, the 45 talent system, I do think that Dark Bargain got weaker because what is more about the sustained damage instead of a burst damage. So that's where the Sacrificial Pact can probably absorb just as much damage as the Dark Bargain will from 2 targets, but on top of it, Sacrificial Pact's cooldown is 1 minute and it gets up to about like 120-160k from your pet, and about up to like literally 300k HP if you use on your own. And Soul Link also, Soul Link sacrifice, that's another thing I need to actually pinpoint about the Harvest of Life. Because when you sacrifice your demon, essentially you with the Soul Link you get 20% more HP. Well, guess what? It also increases the healing done by the Drain Life. So where the Drain Life got up to 19,800 damage, now it will actually get up to 24,800 healing. I mean 23,800. So essentially that's also a small synergy there. Archimon's Darkness, Killjoying Cunnings, and Minor's Fury, the only one that's valuable to take there is Archimon's Darkness. Another thing is Soulburn Hunt and Demonic Servitude. I touched base about those as well, but obviously I had a separate video for that, so it's going to be linked in the description below in case you want to watch it as well. Blood Whore did get nerfed. Blood Whore actually breaks on damage, and while it's still a strong pick, I do think that they kind of nerfed the talent, which kind of sucks for us, because Warlock is all about less mobility but more of a tankiness. And Unbound will get also nerfed as well, because it actually 2-minute cooldown now, down from 1 minute. Also, sacrificing 20% of your HP in Warlords of Draenor actually means a lot more than sacrificing 20% of your HP back in Mist of Pandaria. So in that sense, they both kind of got nerfed, but they both strong talents. And Burning Rush is garbage. It does just still way too much damage to us. I think that they need to at least half the damage of the talent for it to be actually worth it, or put it on a small cooldown, like a 20-second cooldown, and get rid of the actual back damage. So with that said, Glimmer of Supremacy's Service and Sacrifice, they all kind of pretty viable depending on what you want to run. Sacrifice for 5v5s and RPGs, Supremacy for 2v2s, 3s, and probably Grimoire of Service would be also pretty nice as well to run, because extra kick, everybody can use it. But also having a high HP pet, meaning that your essential Sacrificial Pact or Soul Link is gonna absorb a lot more. So, needless to say, one more thing, Grimoire of Supremacy is also run really good with the Demonic Servitude. Why? Because that big motherfucker that does a lot of damage, our Doomguard, he's gonna be doing even more damage with the Grimoire of Supremacy. Now let's look at the glyphs. By themselves, we talked about already Glyph of Siphon Life, Hellstone, Unending Resolve, Eternal Resolve, the one I would say a must to have glyph is gonna be a glyph on stable affliction. Why? Because we're gonna be soul swapping a whole lot less, because now it requires a soul shard. But in return, having a 25% extra haste to your unstable afflictions, and because we don't have a fell flames, this is a must to have for us. But the other, I would say, uppercomer kind of a glyph is actually Glyph of Demonic Circle. Why? Well, it's very simple. Essentially what's happening is Demonic Circle now, we have a 4-set bonus. Every time we use Demonic Circle, we get 3000 versatility, which reduces our damage take, 1300 versatility, sorry, which reduces our damage taken by 5%, but also increases our damage done by 10%. In fact, we will be using a lot of our ports, I think, offensively, because if you pop your Dark Soul, if you port and you stack 10% damage on top of it with a Soulborn Hunt, you will do a massive spread dot damage. And obviously, being able to port more frequent, essentially what's gonna do it to us is it will actually increase our damage. So that talent indirectly increases our damage, and it's actually gonna, I think it's gonna be pretty strong as well. And let's see, Dark Soul, this one is very good glyph, but I think it's a good glyph for Demon, not Afflictions, because Affliction is all about the sustained damage. So other than that, Glyph of Soul Swap is garbage. Soul Consumption and others, I don't think they're gonna be actually viable picks for us in PvP. So let's actually make a quick summary. Harvest of Life against the casters. Dark Regeneration against the melee as a rule of thumb. Hall of Terror, good against the casters. Mortal Coil, good against the gimps, gimping people. Shadow Fury, good against the melee because you can stun them and then cast the fear right in their faces. Soul Link is gonna be extremely strong for the sustained damage mitigation. Sacrificial Pact is gonna be just as strong, and it's actually got stronger because of a lesser damage. Blood Whore and Unbound Will, again, they both have their uses. Unbound Will obviously against the casters, and Blood Whore is gonna be better used against the melee. Grim of Supremacy, Service, and Sacrifice all have their uses as well. Hunts actually do a lot of damage, and when it comes to, let me just show you how much damage they do. Let me get this procs. I'm gonna port, and I'm just gonna spam hunts. 33 non-crit, and if you cast them very fast, they will actually do a tons of damage. So in that sense, this talent got actually kind of buffed at the same time. And then Grimoire of Service is gonna be good, and Grimoire of Supremacy is still gonna be very strong. Archimon Darkness is gonna be the must. The other two are garbage. Soulborn Hunt and Demonic Service, I have a separate video for that as well. When it comes to glyphs, I believe that Glyph of Siphon Life is gonna be much stronger and probably will be picked. Glyph of Hellstone is good, but I kinda still think that Siphon Life might overcome it, because 3 to 4k healing every 2 to 3 seconds is much stronger than 50k heal once in a while, especially over its duration time. Over that 10 seconds, you at least gonna have, I would say, like a 4 corruption procs, and 4 corruption procs on 3 targets, that is literally 16k healing, where your Hellstone is gonna provide extra 50k healing with a long as hell cooldown, and the Siphon Life I think just gonna overcome it. Eternal Unending Resolve's gonna have their own uses as well. Unending Resolve is good with a Drain Life because of immune to silence. Eternal Resolve is good with a Siphon Life. And obviously the Demonic Circle, keep in mind on that, because I believe this is gonna be a very strong choice. Overall, Affliction Warlocks do look relatively well, but the fact that I don't like about Affliction Warlocks is still most of our damage for PvE purposes kinda tied a lot into the channeling, and by channeling that means that our dot damage is actually gonna be pretty horrendous. Your highest dot is gonna be your Agony, Stable Affliction is gonna be second highest dot, and obviously Corruption is gonna be the third one. So with that said, let me know which next videos you guys want to see in the description below, And again, thanks for watching, and до свидания, my friends.